Welcome to the Smart HVAC Marketing Podcast, the podcast for HVAC contractors who are ready to quit screwing around and begin growing their business. Powered by Rival Digital. On this show, you'll hear from industry leaders and become equipped with the tools and knowledge you need to build a world-class business. Now, here's your host, Eric Thomas.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the Smart HVAC Marketing Podcast. My name is Eric Thomas. I'm the host of the show. Thank you again for tuning into another episode. I hope everybody had an outstanding Christmas. If you're listening to this in the future, we all hope that you had a great Christmas here over at Rival Digital and are ready to tackle the new year. So a few things that are changing around the podcast for the new year. And this has actually changed already, but just want to go ahead and announce it again. We have moved episodes from Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now will be new episodes every Wednesday. Just a little bit of, I guess, for the sake of transparency, I was getting pretty burned out having to produce 2 episodes a week. So we have slimmed it down to 1 episode a week, and they're just going to be a little bit more robust episodes now, kind of dig in a little bit deeper than we typically do on our episodes. So super excited. You can be looking forward to new episodes every single Wednesday on all your streaming platforms. And then also another thing that's new around here, if you haven't, please join our newsletter. We have the weekly Rival Roundup newsletter that comes out every Friday. Which has all of the information from previous podcast guests, stuff going on around our end of the world. And we got marketing tips of the week, the K9 corner, where we show off people who are using dogs in marketing, all this good stuff. So you could join that by going to our website, rivaldigital.com. And there's a thing in the footer where you can put your email address in and get all of the cool newsletters that we put out. So enough of me rambling. Today, we are joined by Philip St. Let me make sure I get this right. Jacques?
Yes.
Jacques?
You did.
I was right the first time. Philip St. Jacques.
Yeah.
Philip, how are you doing?
Great, Eric. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Philip, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for our listeners? Tell them a little bit more about what you do and your experience in the industry and how you got to where you are now.
Oh, terrific. And this is if you're sure it's only 30 minutes, I think it's going to take a little longer than that. I'm joking. I'm Philip St. Jacques, and I help lead the enterprise marketing services team here at WorkWave. Began my career early on, probably early 90s. My brother my twin brother and I started a marketing firm back in North Jersey. And we were specialized in franchised organizations, and we had a lot of field service franchised organizations that we worked with. Fast forward 20-something years, we had WorkWave had acquired our company back in 2018, and now my brother and I are still here, kind of leading the enterprise marketing services team. So, a world of experience in terms of, marketing at the very top and at the very entry point of a lot of businesses.
Wow. So what attracted you to the home service or the field service side of franchising?
You know what? It just seemed to be the most in need because a lot of the businesses are not brick and mortar. So there's a lot of advantages and there's some disadvantages to not to having a brick and mortar location. Obviously, the branding and signage is there. When you're kind of running like a back office and everything's kind of running out of a van, there's a lot more challenges. I think there's a lot more challenges that come with that. And a lot of the businesses that we work with, for the most part, they tend to be very busy. So they need help in a couple of different areas. One is kind of helping them just organize their digital world, right? And I'm sure you have a lot of experience with everything is everywhere. I've got a web guy that did this. I got a domain set up over here. I don't know where my logins for this, right? There's a lot of challenges around that. So we just happen to really like the energy and the pace of field service businesses. We understood it. Services I use all the time as a homeowner, and it's just something we really enjoyed.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I'd love to dig in a little deeper about franchising, because that is something that a lot of our listeners are independent contractors, or small medium sized business owners who they probably they either own what they would consider to be a local company versus a franchise, even though independently owned franchise businesses are still a local company. um, but a lot of them probably, if they're listening to this, they probably would agree that a lot of folks turn their nose up to franchising sometimes. So I'd love to get your take on, franchising for home services in particular. What do you think about it?
Well, I mean, there's really no denying that there are many very successful franchisors in the home service industry. I think we mentioned a couple when we are getting introduced, and it's just growing. There's a I think a lot of advantages to having that operational infrastructure that somebody has kind of already figured out, and so that you can focus on just like running and growing your business, as opposed to trying to figure out like all those operational stumbling blocks that somebody's already been through.
Yeah.
So I think that there are, I mean, and you kind of look at all of these holding companies, and there's just a ton of home service, field service holding companies that's all they focus on. And again, we can neighborly is probably the king of the hill in that regard.
Yeah.
But so there's a lot of benefits to kind of joining just a really strong team.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you there. I think that, and that's kind of, that's how the franchise model works. Someone wants to get into business for themselves. They're either an outstanding technician, or they're wanting to just, go into business ownership, but they don't have, they might have the capital to start a business, but they don't have the business acumen. They don't understand field software management, or, sales or marketing operations, how to read a P&L statement, all that stuff. And that's why you buy into a franchise, is because you're purchasing a business model. And that is something that, I think is really solid if you're wanting to get into business ownership. But with, the on the flip side, obviously the con of that is that you have to pay a royalty to the franchisor, which is typically, 7 to 10% in some cases. But you're buying a business model that's already proven.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's not for everybody, and you have to kind of decide like what, where are you coming from? Are you a kind of large, regional company that is looking to take it to the next level, right? And that's probably one reason you would probably, join one of these franchise or holding groups. If you're an independent technician looking to start your own business, you may know everything there is to know about HVAC. You probably know very little about what it takes to run a business. And I would argue that, deciding to be a business owner and being an HVAC technician are two completely different things, right? So you can decide that you want to be in the business ownership role. You have to just kind of make that, just understand when you kind of, become a franchisee, you're now a business owner, which requires, finance, operations, sales and marketing, all operational stuff. All of that stuff needs to be figured out. HR, even if you're one person, you got to figure out, how do you get paid? What does your insurances look like? What does your, liability insurance look like? All of that stuff.
Yeah. I feel like right now in the industry, another big thing that's going on is the private equity is kind of taking over, where a lot of these private equity firms are buying up a lot of HVAC businesses, as a way, to grow their firm And it's almost like franchising in some senses, because there's like the Wrench Group, for example, and Service Champions is another one, for example, where they they have a proven business model and they're growing through acquisitions, but it's not necessarily franchising. Have you had any experience in that, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, 100%. In WorkWave, at the core of WorkWave are two large operational software platforms. One is called PestPack in pest control, and the other is Real Green, which is in the lawn and landscape industry. And just as you had mentioned in the HVAC space, there are lots of holding companies in the pest control space just looking to buy pest control companies, and tons of activity in that space. And the multiples are ridiculous, because I think it's true in the HVAC space. A lot of these pest control companies and lawn care companies sell like subscription services, like home protection programs, or monthly billing, quarterly billing, annual billing that auto renews. So it's that type of business model, that reoccurring revenue model is what it becomes so attractive. And I think that's the same. I think it's similar to franchising, in that royalty revenue is the thing that's the most valuable part of a franchise system. So that reoccurring revenue in pest control, lawn care, HVAC, any type of field service business. If you've got that type of revenue, you're doing something right, and it's exceptionally valuable revenue.
Yeah. So what are some ways that you've seen business owners increase their reoccurring revenue?
That's a really great question. I literally just had this conversation on Friday, and I have this over and over again. Um, Essentially, when we bring on a client, what we like to do is kind of take a look at them and decide, is your goal this reoccurring revenue? And if that is your goal, let's kind of start at the very beginning. I was talking with a company on Friday, had a 10,000 person, 10,000 contact database. I said, what are you doing to market that database? He's like, nothing. He said, it's probably all one-time project work. I said, do you have any type of subscription program or home protection program? And he's like, no, we don't. Tell me more about this. And I said, look, here's your ultimate goal. Your ultimate goal is you want to exit the business at the highest valuation possible. The highest dollar you can acquire is that reoccurring revenue dollar, that home protection program. So let's develop some packages. Let's start taking these one-time project people. We can start marketing to them to some type of home protection program, and you can start laddering up. I said, that should be your goal, and that should be your marketing strategy moving forward. Should be not about doing the job tomorrow, but turning that job tomorrow into reoccurring revenue by getting onto some type of a plan.
Yeah. So when you're developing these plans, what would you recommend in regards to like adding value to them? Because I know sometimes the average homeowner might not see some of these plans as valuable. They might just see it as another monthly expense.
Yeah, that's terrific. At the end of the day, you have to the plan has to deliver some type of value. And again, I'll use myself as an example. I just had an HVAC technician come out to my house to service our unit. We just bought a new home down in the New Jersey Beach area, and I had an HVAC technician come out to the home. I said, my wife says, oh, it doesn't feel as hot as it should. And I said, okay, go call a guy. Comes out, takes a look at it, and he says, look, I could charge you for today, or I've got here's an annual contract plan for about $100 more, covers all of this stuff. You get preferential treatment, and we come out, run regularly scheduled interviews, and if you call up with an emergency, you're the first one on the list. That to me was a value. I said, I'm signing up, and I signed up immediately. I said, I'm 100% signed in, because the value to me as a homeowner for HVAC, pest control, lawn care is I don't want to think about it. Make it so I don't have to think about it. I don't want to have to think about my pest control. I don't want to think about my lawn care, and I don't want to think about HVAC. I want to make that decision, turn it over to somebody I trust, feel some type of value in the home protection program, but just know that I'm covered and know that either me or my wife knows who to call when there's an issue. So I think for me, the value was in I am a preferred customer. I get to the top of the list if there's a problem.
Yeah. And it sounds like that company, that sounds like the technician had done a good job of selling it as well, which is half the battle. Honestly, probably 90% of the challenge with, that we see in the industry is you spend all this time, you get coaching, and the coach helps you develop these maintenance agreements, the service plans, stuff like that. You take it to market, you're advertising it on Facebook and your website and all this good stuff. And then your technician gets in the home and then forgets to sell it to the homeowner, or
Yeah, I forgot to mention
so
it.
yeah, they forget to
100,
mention it because they don't. It's not what they, honestly, they don't really care.
100%. I'm going to give them a plug. I'll tell you who it is. It's Coastal HVAC here I think they're based out of Hazlitt, New Jersey. Phenomenal. Great company. Had 2 technicians out, young, smart, affable, like really got along with them, felt comfortable with them in the house. But I felt comfortable that they were telling me exactly what the problem was. And they weren't trying to oh, you need a whole new unit. Oh, we got to rip this out. We got to put a new one in. They're like, oh no, you got, hey, you got 5 years left on this unit. Let's just keep our eye on it. Here's a service plan. We'll keep, now we'll record it in our system. If there's a problem, we'll come right out. Right. Awesome. They knew how to do it. So obviously it's not just about advertising a home protection program. It's about the person who's walking in the door, that technician who's walking in the door, understanding that their job is to fix a problem, but they are also a sales and marketing advocate for the company. So a lot of pest control companies are successful because the technician in the home is incentivized to not overcharge a client, but to definitely upsell a client. I'm quite sure this young gentleman, James, who came to my house and sold me that HVAC plan, we got some type of commission on it. And I was happy that he did, because you know what? I felt like I got peace of mind for an extra $100 over what they were going to charge me. I'll do that all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. A value-based upsell, I guess, is always the way to go in any instance.
Yeah. And it wasn't, like I said, he could have 100% have said, oh man, this air conditioning unit, we got to get this out of right away. It's on its last legs. We got to, which isn't the case. And I knew it wasn't the case, but he could have really said anything. I would have smelled that coming a mile away, but he just spoke the truth. And I felt like he was telling me the truth. And he's like, So I think it's not just about what do you want the home protection to be and how do you sell it, are you training your technicians to just really just be the right kind of people that your customers are comfortable with? Are they comfortable? So next time I call Coastal, I have a problem, 100% I'm going to ask for James. And I'm going to, because I know he already knows me, he already knows my wife, and he already knows my system. 100% I'll ask for him all day long.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's talk a little bit more about WorkWave. Tell us a little bit more about it and kind of all of its features and abilities.
This is really going to be a 4-hour podcast, isn't it? Joking. It's a phenomenal software. So if you think about what we do as the vanguard of like lead generation for your company, the WorkWave software is everything from when that lead hits your application, how the jobs get scheduled, how you order your supplies, how you communicate with your customers. It's like a full end-to-end operational software company for your business, all the way through WorkWave payments. We're now a payment processor, so we process a lot of client payments right through the application. We also have there's a company that we acquired just recently called Slingshot, this is phenomenal. After hours and over the weekends, call answering, chat, web forms. So what they recognized was years ago that the gentleman named Taylor Olson. recognized that lots of the leads would come in after a business closed or over the weekends, and nobody was getting back to them. So, or you have a pest control problem, or your HVAC is broken. You want somebody right away. You want 24-hour service. You don't care when it is, and you notice these things kind of when you get home, right? You get home and you turn on your air conditioning, it's not working, or the heat's not working, or you see a pest or something. That's when you kind of make the call. Anyway, Slingshot, they'll answer your phones after hours, and it's not just call answering service. They will also book close business and drop that business onto your schedule in one of our operational software companies. So they almost act like your CSRs, where they will take the call, they will close the business, they answer as you, and then they will drop that onto your schedule. So you wake up in the morning and show up to work, and you've got a full day scheduled out.
Yeah. Something that I've heard a lot of when it comes to those, I'm looking at the website right now, by the way. It's
Slingshot.
really cool.
WorkWave.
Yeah. Well, no, ServeMan by WorkWave.
Oh, ServeMan. Yep. ServeMan too. Yeah.
So I was just saying, like, I think one thing that I've seen in regards to Slingshot, and I'd love to see what Slingshot does. I guess to combat this, a challenge that I see a lot of times in the industry when it comes to these, virtual receptionists or after hours call center type things, is they don't always know, I guess, the business as well as the on-call CSR would, or the 9 to 5 CSR would. And in some instances, I've even seen it, as, the marketing partner for some HVAC businesses. I've seen where a customer will come in with, questions, and the person answered it incorrectly, and then they lost that opportunity to sell them. So what makes Slingshot different? What is some of the stuff that they do to help, avoid having that type of issue?
Yeah, that's great. I would say they only focus on field service businesses, right? So it's not, they're not, answering phones for accounting firms or for lawyers. It's only field service. And primarily it's in pest control and it's in lawn care. So they really understand those spaces. I would have to check on what their expertise in the HVAC space is, but I do know that they work with some HVAC companies. And the training, right? So it's not something where you call up today and they start answering the phone tomorrow. There's training on their teams. There's scripts that they have to go through, and you don't have to have them close the business. You can just have them take a call, and then maybe there's an alert that goes out to the owner if it's an emergency, right? Something along those lines. A big part of their value is they do know field service, they do know pest control, and they can close business and drop that business onto your and have integrations with our software programs that allow them to drop those meetings onto your, or those scheduled appointments right into your software.
Yeah. So how many, I guess, like how big of a portion of the business is in the HVAC plumbing side for WorkWave?
That's a great question. I can probably ping somebody right now and get that information. It's predominantly pest control. It's pest control, lawn care, cleaning, HVAC. It's definitely one of the 4 pillars. But I'm not sure how big that pillar is. I just to be honest with you.
Yeah. Oh no, it's cool. I was just looking because it looks like you guys have a lot of industries, which is great. I know that's something that a lot of contractors, there's a lot of solutions out there. There's a lot of technology out there these days, it seems like, and it's hard to find one that kind of meets, checks several boxes. You might find one that's great for dispatching and scheduling, but lacks marketing capabilities or lacks reporting, or you find one that has the coolest integrations and marketing stuff in it, but the scheduling is wonky. So it's interesting to, to see this product. It looks like there's a lot of, a lot of cool stuff, even with like transportation and logistics, like with routing. And
Yep.
I know that that's very, I know that this podcast is a little bit more HVAC, but I know from my pest control background that I spent about a year and about 2 years working for a pest control company. I do know that the route side is very important, and I think that's important for any home service as well. To be able to optimize your routes.
Absolutely. The routing is a phenomenal piece of the software that it kind of integrates with the operational software, just to gain the most efficiency out of your day, right, or out of a technician's day. If they got 10 stops to make, we have to get them from A to B back home to A in the most efficient amount of time.
Yeah. So
So
how does that work if there's wrenches, kind of thrown in the plan? Because that happens a lot with HVAC, where you'll have a technician who has four repair jobs booked for the day. They get to the first job and they think, okay, I just need to change this capacitor, or, just a simple thermostat fix. And then next thing you know, they're at that house for 6 hours and all their jobs get pushed back. So how does it adjust to stuff like that?
Hey, Eric, I love you, man, but I should have brought one of the technology guys onto this call. So I'm sure there's a way to kind of get around it. It kind of falls outside of what we do on the marketing side. I'm sure there's a way that they can reroute jobs or put another technician in there, or because I'm sure that happens all the time, right? That's probably one of
Yeah.
the when everything's perfect, no software, has to account for things not going perfectly. So I'm 100%
Hmm.
sure that there's a way to kind of reroute jobs or send other technicians in,
Yeah.
and also have that direct communication stream with the client. And you've gotten these before: technicians coming to your house, you get a text message saying, "Hey, he's delayed," or "Hey, he'll be there in 10 minutes," like those types of things. So I'm sure
Yeah.
there's stuff that's kind of built into the software.
Yeah. So I guess to kind of use that as a way to segue into some of the marketing stuff, you know, what are what are some of the ways that you see contractors utilizing marketing to just to fill up their job board and to get more customers?
That's great, and I would say it's not, the economy is Google search, right? If we kind of leave it out there, and you can probably speak to this as well. We've just spent a lot of time really shoring up our clients' digital foundation. The Google My Business page. A lot of our clients still don't recognize how important that is to growing their business, and is probably, especially of these younger companies, or these companies that are just starting out, probably their best opportunity to get on the first page of Google search results is through your Google My Business page. A lot of companies
Hmm.
still don't even know that. I was at a conference a few months back. It was a window cleaning conference, and I was talking on the power of Google My Business, and just getting reviews and Google My Business page optimization and how it links up with your website. But there was one guy that raised his hand, and he's like, "I ran my business for 2 years off of my Google My Business page. I had nothing else. That's all I had." He goes, "Because it's all I could afford," which was zero. He goes, "I ran my business for 2 years off of my Google My Business page. I just got a website this year." When we bring on a client, or we look at a client, we just we kind of look at everything, and just kind of make sure we're not doing what they ask, it's doing what they need. It's almost like going to the doctor, like, "Doctor, what's wrong? I don't feel good." And he kind of he looks at a bunch of different things. That's what we do. It's really kind of shoring up the digital infrastructure, and pulling all of their assets back under their tent and in their control. How many times have we, as the web guy has their domain name, they own it, right? Or owns their
Hmm.
hosting account, or owns their website, right? And they don't have a lot of their digital assets, or they don't know how to access them. Or, one of the CSRs set up their Google My Business page years ago, and now she left the company and is off doing something else, right? So it's really just taking that inventory and just shoring up their digital foundation. And then it's starting to layer on, okay, what is the goal? What is our goal for the year? What do we want to see happen for the year? And if we want to get, obviously, especially in lawn and pest control, especially and with HVAC, very seasonal businesses. So the things you talk about in the spring are very different than the things you talk about in the fall. So just making sure our communications kind of line up with the time of year and what customers are in need of. And then the third thing is not just thinking about as tactical, like I want to be on this platform, I want to be on that one, but making sure that message is kind of pushed out on all platforms simultaneously. So there's kind of a unified strategy approach.
Yeah. I think it's very important for business owners to own their marketing, even on other assets. It's so unfortunate. I've seen it happen a lot now with some of the, there's a lot of big name companies out there where they own all of your website and they own your ad accounts and they own your GMB.
Yeah.
And then when they go to try to leave that company, it's just an absolute mess.
100%. One of the things when business owners are evaluating our services, we'll ask them. He said, "Well, this company is doing it cheaper." I said, "Okay, just ask them, when you leave, do you get to take your assets with you? Like, who owns your website?" And that's a simple question, but it's one that has profound implications on their business. Right? It may look cheap now, but you're really just leasing your assets. You don't actually own your assets. With the products that we build for clients, you've built an asset. You've built a corporate asset. You own those assets. And if you ever decide to leave, we don't want you to, but if you ever decide to leave, you have an asset that you take with you, or that belongs to the company.
Yeah.
Not your company, not our company.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are running up on time here a little bit. So before we go, I usually last thing I ask before we get going is just what's a piece of advice that you would give to a contractor out there who's just getting started in their business?
That's terrific. Just getting started in the business, I would say there's two things. Google My Business page, and we talked a little bit about that already. If you don't know what it is, or if you do know what it is, make sure you set it up. Make sure you've optimized it. Make sure you're putting photos on there. It is really important. It's probably your best opportunity to be found in local search, period. So if you're a new business and people are talking about SEO, it's a little too early for that. You really just want to kind of start with the foundations, that foundation. And second of all is online reviews. One of the really successful things that we have here at WorkWave is an online reviews application that works with our software. That's phenomenal, because the currency on the internet obviously is search and keywords and reviews. And so we help those companies kind of get reviews, get found online through the Google My Business page. And the third thing I'm going to say is there's a new application that's out called Nextdoor. It's probably about a few years old now. You've probably seen it by now. Very, very strong, very hyper local, and it really is friendly to local businesses for posting things just in their geographic area for free. That gets shared with all your neighbors. Yeah. So I would check those things out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think taking advantage of any of the free stuff is a must. I think you should always have a nice website and always be actively, advertising and doing all that stuff. Maybe I'm a little biased because, you and I do websites and marketing and all that stuff. So a little biased there, but I think one of the easiest low hanging fruits for any business owner is Google My Business and Nextdoor and Facebook groups. I think Facebook groups is a big one too. Even just like the local buy, selling, trade, community yard sale Facebook group, people go on there and ask for contractors all the time. So being on those and putting your name in the hat never hurts.
No.
Yeah.
That's terrific. I couldn't agree more.
Absolutely. So, Philip, I really appreciate you joining us today. For all our listeners out there, thank you for tuning into another episode. But before we go, Philip, what is a good way for our listeners to learn more about WorkWave and get a hold of you if they'd like?
Yes, simply go to workwave.com. And if you're interested in the marketing side of things, you can just navigate over to the marketing, the marketing software, marketing services, and that form fill will come to somebody on my team and somebody on the sales team that will be able to get in touch with me. You can also email me at pstjacques, pstjacques at workwave.com. You can certainly ask me any questions or find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, Philip, I appreciate you joining us today, and I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon.
Have a great day. Thank you, Eric.
All right. Bye-bye.